one and all. So in the previous classes, we have already learned about what is robotic process automation means, and we have aware of why robotic process automation is necessary nowadays, especially for industry people. So in this class, we shall focus on techniques of automation. However, I will discuss with the scope of automation in the next class. So today's class objective is we will discuss or will come to know about techniques of automation. So here, as the name itself says, techniques of automation is concerned with the variable, concerned with number of approaches. Let us say approach 1, approach 2, etc., approach n, used by an organization, let us say O, in order to automate a process, let us say a process P1. So this is what techniques of automation means. Once again, I will repeat. Techniques of automation is concerned with number of approaches or methods or techniques used by an organization to automate a process, let us say P1. So we shall discuss this in today's session. So before understanding the number of approaches available for the industry people or for an organization to automate any process, let us say P1, we need to understand a few basics or fundamentals. So let us see what are those fundamentals. So this is the first fundamental that we need to understand before understanding or discussing about the techniques available for the industry people to automate a process, let us say P1 or P2. So we shall understand first, as I said, this is a basic concept. We shall understand what should be automated first. As I said, it means as I said, if I say an organization, let us say an organization O, usually organization task is to produce a product, right? So this product will be produced by this organization O by executing a process, let us say a process or a task, let us say P. Usually this process is composed of many sub processes, let us say P1, P2, etc., Pn. So here as I said, RPA is concerned with automating any process inside an organization, right? See, before choosing a process, either P1 or P2 or Pn for that matter, for automation, we need to understand which are the process that should be automated first, or a task, process or task that should be automated first. So see here, this is the first point that you need to remember. If a process or a task has repetitive steps, then you can choose that as a candidate for automation. So I hope you people are aware of repetitive steps. Means if I want to give a simple example, let us say a process P1 task is to print hello 5 times, 2, 3, 4, 5. See here, the operation is or a task is printing hello. That task has been repeated 5 times. So I can say this process P1 is an example for a task which involves repetitive steps. So if this is the case, then you can choose process P1, or you can think P1 process can be automated. This is what it means. Similarly, if a process has a time consuming steps, if I take the same example, let us say P1 has 5 steps, and let us say all these 5 steps are taking more time in order to complete the task, let us say P1. So in those cases also, you can choose P1 as a candidate for automation. The next point is, if the process has high risk task, means very important. Let us go back to the same example. Let us say there is a process called P1 which involves 5 steps, and the output of this P1 is very important, very important for an industry. If this output of this process goes wrong, then 100% it will have a very huge impact on an organization. If that is the case, that is what high risk task means. In those cases, instead of depending on human being, where the quality of the output will be less compared to a robot, in those cases you can choose this P1 process as a candidate for, once again, a candidate for automation. Then similarly, if a process or a task which is yielding low quality yield, then those tasks or process can be automated in order to improve the quality of the yield. Similarly, if a task has multiple people and multiple steps involved. So again, since as the name itself says, if the task has multiple people involved, multiple steps it has, obviously it will take more time for execution. So hence, in order to speed up this operation, you can choose even this type of task for automation, and the list goes on. So this is what you need to understand before understanding different approaches available for an industry people for automating a process. So I will recall it. So if the process has repetitive steps, you can go ahead for automation. And if the process has time consuming steps, you can go ahead for automation. Similarly, if the process has high risk task involved, or if you are dealing with high risk task process or a task, you can go ahead with an automation. Similarly, if the existing task is giving the result with a low quality, then you can go for automation in order to improvise the quality of the yield produced by the task. And similarly, if the task is involving multiple people and multiple steps, again you can choose this type of task for automation, and the list goes on. This is what you need to understand first. And the next is very important. See, in the previous slide we understood which are the process that should be automated, right? Now we will understand very important point, that not all process in an organization can't be automated. We shall see then, sir, how to decide which process inside an organization can be automated, which process cannot be automated. So in order to answer this question, you need to be aware of these characteristics. I mean, if the process if the process has or exhibit the following characteristics, then you can say that those process can be automated. If the process fails to have these characteristics, then you can say that that process is not suitable for automation. Now we shall go one by one. See, the process that you are choosing, let us say process, we are talking about process P1, and we are talking about process P2. Let us say the process P1 has been well defined in terms of rule based steps. Like every step performed by this process P1 is unambiguous, and it is rule based. Like for example, rule based in the sense means, if x is greater than 0, then do this, otherwise do this, like this. In this manner, these steps of this process has been defined. In those cases, you can choose or you can decide that process P1 can be automated. Let us say process P2 is performing the task which is involving again n number of steps, but these steps are ambiguous or not clear or not well defined. Then this type of process, you can decide that this type of process can't be automated. This is what the meaning here. Similarly, if the process is very logical, I mean, the steps defined in that process is very logical. Logical, again, I can take an example of either switch or if or for. Then those steps or those process which involves those steps can be chosen for automation. This is interesting. An input to the task can be diverted to the software system. So even if a process exhibit this characteristic also, we can go ahead for automation. I mean, I will give a simple example. Diverted means rerouting or changing or deviating like this. For example, let us assume there is an application here. Let us assume there is an application which has been opened in an Chrome browser or Firefox browser, which involves two fields here. Let us say field number 1 and field number 2, and there is a button here. So what the user has to do means, let us assume he has to enter the current date and let us say current time. So I mean, the bottom line is there is an application or a form or a web page here which has two fields and one submit button. Make it simple. And in the first field, the user has to enter the current date, and in the second field, the user has to enter the time field. So here, if I change the way that I am providing the input, so I mean, instead of allowing the human to provide the input for these two fields, let the system itself fill the current date here in this field and current time here in this field. If that is the case, then you can choose this or you can choose this complete process for automation. That's what, see here, initially input was provided to this form, I mean field 1, field 2 by the human being. That is the one way. Now I am deviating that way to an application, let us say a software application or a software program running on this machine, where now the software application or a program running on this machine is providing inputs to this field. This is the meaning of deviation. Okay, then we shall go with the next interesting characteristics, like input can be deciphered by software system with available techniques. It means deciphered means decryption, something like that. So I will not go in detail about encryption and decryption here. At a simplest level, again I can take one more application here. Let us take one more web page is displaying here. Again, either you can choose a Chrome or Firefox for that matter. And I hope everyone has seen a field called password field, where the user will enter the password. When the user enters the password, usually it will not be displayed here. You can think this as an encryption, but it is not actually encryption. Encryption means converting a readable text to an unreadable text. So I won't go in depth of encryption and decryption. I will make it simple. Let us say now the password entered by the user, let us say password entered by the user is 1234. That 1234 has been converted to 4 dots. Now if there is a system, if there is a program or an application running on this system which can get back 1234 from these 4 dots, that is what deciphering means, converting unreadable text to unreadable text, deciphering form. Then you can choose this again you can choose this process for automation purpose. See, the meaning is, the bottom line is, we are trying to automate a process, let us say P1, which is taking where that process needs an input which is taken by a single text field, but the input obtained here in this text box will be in encrypted form, like 4 dots or $4. But if we don't have any decipher algorithms or a program on this application, then we can't go ahead. So hence, if there are deciphered programs in the system, then we can convert this encrypted text to an unencrypted text. Then we can continue with the further process. This is what it means. Then the next characteristics is the output system must be accessible. Again, accessible means it should have a rights to either read or perform read or write operation. That is what it says. I will give a simple example again. Let us take again a web page. Again a web page where that web page is displaying details of a student in the form of a table, like name here, USN here, subject code 1 here, or course code here. This is the details of student, like goes like this, one row, one row, one row, like this. And then there is an export button here, which will export the data present in this table in the web page to an Excel sheet. I hope everyone are familiar with the Excel sheet. Now here, what actually the process is doing? It is trying to extract the data present in this web page. Okay, and then it has to transfer that data to an Excel sheet, and the user will view the output in this Excel sheet. So now what we have to do means, if you plan to automate this process, you need to make sure that there is an rights for you to access an Excel application. For you in the sense means for the application. If there is an access to access the Excel application, then obviously you can go ahead with an automation. That's what the meaning of output system accessible means. Then finally, it is a generic point. Benefits are more important than cost. Like it is very generic, or it is a management or entrepreneur level. If you don't worry about the cost, if you really want to earn benefit, obviously you need to spend the cost. This is what it means. So finally, what we learned here is, we learned that we started with the techniques. As I said, what techniques means? Techniques means understanding the different approaches available in an organization or to automate, let us say, any process, say P1. Before understanding this, we understood few fundamentals. Like first we understood which are the types of process or task that can be, or that not can, sorry, that should be automated. See, it's very simple. If that process has a repetitive steps, then you can say that yes, it can be automated. If that process has time consuming steps, then you can say yes, it can be automated. Similarly, if that uh, process, or if any process has high risk task, then you can say yes, it can be automated. Similarly, if the process current process is yielding a low quality yield, then again you can say that yes, it can be automated in order to improve the quality. If the current process is involving multiple people and multiple steps, yes, you can choose say that yes, it can be automated to improve the quality, and so on the list goes on. But finally, you should be aware of even this. You need to know, this tells us that not all the process in an organization, or generally the process can't be automated. If the process obeys these characteristics, then you can say that that process can be automated. The characteristics are, the process should be well defined and it should be rule based, and the process or the task should be logical, and you should make sure that whether input to the task can be diverted or rerouted to the software system, nothing but software program or an application. Similarly, input can be, you need to see that whether input can be deciphered, I mean get back from an unreadable or from dots to unreadable data by the software systems. And you need to make sure that the output system must be accessible. And obviously, if you want to have more benefits, then obviously you need to spend the cost. Means if your priorities for benefit or profits of an organization, then obviously you can go ahead for automation. So now we are almost at the end of the presentation. Now we shall see techniques of automation. So this is how the techniques has been evolved. Previously, or 10 years back approximately, people were using these approaches in order to carry out the task done in an organization. Then people moved to desktop automation, browser automation, then coming up with an robots here to perform the task. And finally we are here now, where we can include artificial intelligence to robots, where AI, in that case robots are uh, able to perform operation without the intervention of human being. I mean with artificial intelligence here, in this stage, you can build robots with including or by considering AI, means artificial intelligence. But in this course we will not go ahead with an or building robots with AI. Instead we will build assisted robotic process, or make it simple, assisted bot and unattended bot. I will tell you in the coming classes what is assisted bot means, or robot means, what is unattended robot means. So before coming to here, anyhow we will discuss this in throughout this semester. I will give a brief details about this. See, usually if I go for a few 15, approximately 10 or 15 years back, even today people are using this, no matter for different purpose. See, people were using scripts in order to carry out the task. People were using macros in order to carry out the task, run books. See, basically at an high level, I can say all these are command oriented. All these are command oriented, where people were executing the command in the command line prompt, and that command will creating a process, and that process will carrying out the task. So this is what in the previous years. And then people came with the techniques like automating the desktop, like having multiple screen in a single screen, moving the data from one screen to another screen. All this uh, I mean people develop the software to perform all this operation. Then people have developed applications where you can achieve browser automation. Browser automation nothing but those programs can fetch the data present in the web page, and they can store it in a tabular form. This is called browser automation. Then wrappers, I will the best example for wrapper is an web server, where usually your website is nothing but collection of web pages. So usually web pages or website will be stored inside the web server. Now you can see this web server, it's act like a wrapper for this website. So it means it enclose your website inside this server in order to provide additional services to your website. Like the best example is security to your website. That is what wrapper means. people have developed even this mechanism, and people have developed APIs and web services, database integration. I hope you people are familiar with database integration, where people already have developed the techniques where your program can read the data from the database, or it can fetch that data, or it can write the data to the database. That is what database integration means. And API is nothing but application programming interface, where you can use you can treat at this level as an libraries where you can get the service from these libraries. For the time being, you understand web service also a form of library. If you need any service from that library, then you can go ahead with an web service. Why particularly web service? Because that library has been hosted in the web. That library has been hosted in the, or that service has been hosted or has been placed inside a web. That's why it is called as a web service. Okay, I won't touch about this web service or database integration in depth, but anyhow, as I said, throughout the semester we'll discuss, or we will learn how to build a attended robot, and how to build or attended or assisted robot, or how to build unattended robot. Don't worry what is attended, unattended. I will explain this with an example in the coming class. But currently now are in this era, I mean AI era, but we will not touch upon this robots with AI. So I hope I reached the end of the presentation. So this is what now you are aware of the techniques that people already developed, and it is available in the industries in order to carry out the task or process in an organization. Okay, in the coming class, I will discuss with the scope or benefits of robotic process automation. Thank you, Ananda.